So you are listening to the Ethical Journalism Network podcast. My name is Dasha Ilic and I'm talking to Alice Taylor today. Alice is a co-editor of Exit News based in Tirana. Alice, hello.
Hi, good afternoon.
Your media online platform, Exit News, did self-assessment amongst the first of the media outlets in the Balkans. Now you will have the external auditors also checking how committed Exit News is to the ethical standards and good governance. My first question to you, Alice, is about the general impression. What has changed since you did this audit?
Well, I was actually, when I started the process of preparing for the assessment, I realized that we had already done most of it, but that like our ethical standards, for example, were in emails spanning several years, or one document here, one document there, and no one had ever really sort of pulled it together and taken a hard look at it and said, okay, this is what is missing, this is what we need to improve. So I think what we really got from it was, we have a saying in English, like getting your house in order. It really tightened the way that we work. It made us very acutely aware of where we maybe weren't as good as we could have been, not in a deliberate way, but it really made us aware of where we needed to improve, where we needed to invest in training for members of Exit. I even learned things from doing the process as well, so it's something that's ongoing. I foresee it being ongoing as well. So for me, it was, I think the biggest thing I understood from the process was how it's going to be this continuously evolving process, because you can't just make editorial standards and implement X, Y, Z and then just leave it to that. Things change, the way we consume media changes, the political environment changes, everything, Exit changes. We change as journalists, so we are going to have to constantly update how we are working in every aspect of our work, and also making sure that we are all professionally on the same level as well. Whereas I went into it thinking it was sort of a task I was going to be ticking off and, okay, cool, we've done this, we either fail or pass or whatever. I became very aware that this was something that was going to empower us to be better and to continue improving for a very long time.
Can you actually make the difference to differentiate between the Balkan media context and maybe the Western one?
I mean, I don't want to throw any fellow journalists under a bus, because we work in very difficult circumstances in Albania, but there are issues here, and there are times we've been guilty of it in the past as well, where we haven't sourced something. We have to source, but someone's forgotten to include the link, or they haven't double checked something, or there are cases, it's quite common in Albania, where portals will copy and paste articles from others without checking, without sourcing, without asking permission, So these are some of the challenges that I think are quite sort of important in the Balkans. I think there is definitely a need to really understand about copyright, the importance of sourcing. But I also think, it's not just journalists. I think there is an issue in the Balkans, especially with consumers of media, not really knowing how to differentiate between fake news, how to check things themselves. It's a media literacy issue. And I think I see this issue more here, because if you don't speak English, I think it can be very difficult to know where to look to check things, what can be reputable. So you very much rely, or even if you have a limited experience of English, you rely on what's in Albanian or your native Balkan language, So for me, that was it. Sort of professional standards, and also hoping by publishing these standards, for example, making them public in both languages, that maybe some readers will read it and it might help their media literacy as well.
So you did self-assessment, you conducted the audit yourself, but now, thanks to our colleagues from Reporters Without Borders, we will have the external auditors. What does it mean and how does it feel? And what?
Okay, so Exit is like my I have a child. It's like another child to me. You know, I'm emotionally invested in it. So the fact that we had the opportunity to do this audit, the self-assessment, was a huge honor. And I was really, you know, it's my pride and joy. So I was really determined that we would get it right or do the best that we could, you know. And then when I was really hoping that we would get the opportunity to proceed to the external audit, and I was over the moon that we did. Thank you, Reporters Without Borders. And then when I had my first meeting with Deloitte, I was so nervous. Like I felt like I was sitting, I was going for an exam or something. You know, I felt I had to sort of pitch them myself and sort of justify why we deserve to be even speaking to them. You know, it was a really bizarre, I think because I'm so emotionally invested in it. But I feel that it's going to, what I've tried to keep in mind from the beginning is there's no right and there's no wrong. There's no like you failed or anything like that, because any shortcomings that we have will be worked on. You know, this is a very valuable exercise for us because, and the owner of the head of Exit has said, you know, whatever we need to do to meet these standards, you can do it, just make it happen, you know? So if there's anything we've missed or we haven't quite attained, I don't see it as a failure because it's going to give me something, you know, actionable that I can work towards and go, okay, right, we haven't met this right now, but give me a week and we will. You know, so for me, yeah, it's a really, really valuable process and I'm really nervous and I just hope we live up to the expectations. I think because we've had so much help and support from yourself and Reporters Without Borders as well. And also we were the first in the Balkans to do it. There's all this pressure. That doesn't have to be, but I guess it's good that I'm feeling so sort of emotionally involved in the process.
Can you give any sort of kind of advice to other media outlets that are about to conduct and to fill the questionnaire?
This process is probably one of the most valuable processes I've been through in my 8 years of working as a journalist, because it's really, I mean, it takes you back to the complete bare bones of how you should be working. I think it should be, even if you're not going to proceed to the external one, or if you open up if a media opens up the questionnaire and goes, oh, I don't think we can dedicate the resources to this, you know, it's worth it. It really is worth it, because not only are you sort of taking yourself back to basics and really looking at the way your platform works, but you're also creating material that can be used to train your staff. You know, this is what I found, you know, the whole questionnaire, everything, all of the work I did is being used to conduct training sessions and discussions and debates, and you know, so it's incredibly valuable. I mean, you can't put a price on that as far as I'm concerned. So my advice is, if there are any hesitations or you're worried about having the resources to do it or man hours to do it, it's completely worth it. It really makes you accountable to yourself. It makes you assess the way that you work. And now I constantly have in my mind, I mean, I did before, but definitely more so now when I'm writing, you know, I have this process we've been through in my mind. So do it, basically, even if you're not going to publish the report, even if you're not going to go on to the external audits, this is something I think every media should do if they're serious about their independence, their professionalism, and the furthering of their team's professionalism as well.
Alice, thank you very much for taking part not only in the audit, but also in the Ethical Journalism Network podcast. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was an honor.